Hi, and welcome to the Ladies in Biz podcast, where every week we have guests that are amazing female entrepreneurs. Find out how they got started and grew their business. Discover how their story can help you grow your business. Thanks for tuning in today. Here is your host, Penny Redmond.
Hello, everyone. Today we have amazing guests, again, more guests that we're going to be delighted to hear about. And we've got Tash and Viv all the way from New Zealand. How are you?
Awesome.
Good.
Thank you so much for having us on, Penny. It's so exciting to be here.
Well,
Yes.
I'm so excited about having both of you because this is the first time on our podcast that we've ever had other people that are as crazy about Instagram as I am. So it was like, oh yes, I've got to get them on because I as a podcast, this podcast or our format is that we have always at least two people, myself and guests. So it's so I never talk about Instagram, and as much as I love it. So let me just bring the audience up to a little bit up to date on who you are. I've just got some highlighted stuff. So if you can bear with me, I'm just gonna talk about who you gals are. So anyway, so Viv, put up your hand. Who's Viv? Who's Tash?
I'm Tash.
Anyway, you both have cracked the code of influencer marketing through using social media and becoming powerful voices on Instagram through your business, Acegram. And Acegram is a big business. I'm going off the list here because you've got all kinds of different elements in your business, like your podcast, Acegram. You have e-courses going. You have courses that you do live, of course. A little change with our at the moment, but you've got a lot going on with this company. Anyway, you do focus on all things Instagram, without a doubt, and I love the idea that you really understand how impactful that Instagram can be in being with influencer marketing. And you've got giveaways, and you do Instagram, show how to do Instagram, how to drive traffic using it, and more important, driving traffic right back to your website and your product. So ultimately, right, is sales, which is good. And the one last thing I wanted to say is that you've got over 200 net followers on your own personal Instagrams combined. And you work with pretty much everybody, right? You from 70 followers right to 1.9 million followers. And you do it across Australia, USA, UK, New Zealand, and hopefully we'll be able to add some Canadians to that list after this podcast.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
I think when you live in New Zealand, it's a very small place. So with the power of the internet, it's very easy for us to stay connected through things like podcasting, which allows us to connect with clients, which has been really awesome. And it just sort of, it's a little bit futuristic really, isn't it? The way that we can sort of work our online businesses.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I was just saying to both of you before we decided to start taping is that, I've been listening to your podcast just before getting on. And I think what's most amazing is it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We're all living through the same thing. So I know we had discussed this. I'm going to tell you that we tape these podcasts earlier, quite a bit earlier normally. And because of our COVID-19 that we're living through right now, we decided that we're going to do this and post this and publish this a little bit earlier than we normally do, because probably our conversation is going to go that way. So my question is to you first is, how are you both doing?
Yeah, we're doing well. We're currently in full lockdown in New Zealand. So Viv and I are usually together when we're working, but we are working from our separate isolated bubbles of our houses. And it's probably similar to a lot of people around the world right now. We can only go out for super essential services, like if you really need food from the grocery store or if you need to go to the pharmacy. But otherwise, we're basically in our houses for about a month. We're about halfway through now. So it's crazy times all around the world, but we're so blessed that we have a style of business like this and that we naturally connect with people online and have a lot of our business online. And what's been interesting is watching so much of the world, suddenly have to do this style of work as well, which we're used to, but it's so new for so many people. So yeah, it's pretty surreal times.
It is certainly. We've been kind of in the same situation for about 3 weeks. I think we're in week 3 now. And it's showing the benefits. Like you can definitely see it. I'm not saying that we're at a flattened curve by any means. We're a few weeks before we do that for sure. But definitely you feel a little bit safer if you're able to stay at home. But you know, the wonderful thing about it is that because everybody's at home, is they're on Instagram.
I know, and we are seeing that. I was reading a report a couple of days ago, and it was saying that engagement as a whole on social media is up more than 11%, which is just massive. And with that, I think a few other things come into that. There's a lot of people pulling their marketing spend, and with that increase of engagement, we're actually seeing the cost of those ads drop dramatically. So for those that want to take advantage of the situation, you know, our advice would definitely be to put yourself in front of your audience. You know, this is the perfect way to stay top of mind. And on top of that, how can you start utilizing those paid channels? Because there's a really big opportunity at the moment and there hasn't been for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So get it, you know, do it when it's hot, right? Is that when the market is ready, it's kind of like Christmas for Instagrammers in some ways, because there's more people there looking.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Yeah, our second Christmas, I guess. But one of the things I just wanted to ask you.
Yeah, and I know that, like, and you have.
What's that?
Oh, sorry. No, I was going to say, I know in New Zealand, you know, we, you know, Tash and I were talking the other day, we don't have, you can't ship. I think only essential services can sort of ship products, but in countries that, that's slightly different, they've been seeing big spikes in those purchases from using influencers and so on, because again, there are so many people on social.
So you can have things shipped though, so you can order on Instagram and still have it shipped.
In New Zealand, only if it's an essential business. So you might be able to order, but it won't come for like a few weeks or whatever. Yeah, postal services are only reserved for food and the likes.
That is true here. You can definitely place your order, but it doesn't come very quick. Like I was on today and I ordered some things that normally would be, you know, delivered within 2 days because I wanted it delivered for Easter. And I'm going, oh, I should give my head a shake. It wasn't until April the 23rd. And I thought, you know what, probably won't even be April the 23rd. And also I couldn't also pay for express shipment. It's like it gets there when it gets there, maybe.
Yeah.
But at least one good thing is that people are still purchasing. Like, I mean, if you don't need something right away, you're going to still buy it. And I have more time to shop online right now, which is kind of nice. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you is about, and because I know I love Instagram as well, you know, I'm going to ask you about this, is how to use Instagram to really boost your personal brand. So I'm wondering if you guys can share with us how you think we can use Instagram to boost your personal brand.
Yeah, I think there are a few ways. One of the powerful things about Instagram is it is a visual platform, and it's one of the best ways of showcasing all aspects of your brand and showing that whole core story. So, you know, through different content pillars of, you know, the different events you're speaking at, or, you know, where you are involved in different ways in your industry, you can really showcase that using Instagram and really connect with other people in that niche and that industry. And I think we were talking to Sabrina Phillip on our podcast a while ago, and she's 25-ish and has built a, you know, $1 million business in business coaching. And she says that through Instagram, people connect and choose her to be their business coach in such a more intentional way than they would if she didn't use social media, because, you know, if you meet someone in person and you have a formal meeting, you don't necessarily see all facets of that person in the way that they are and the different, you know, what makes them them and what would resonate with you as a business coach. And what she said that social allows her to do is, you know, it is showing through stories like behind the scenes of how she operates and inside her business mastermind events and inside the way that she would have a call with a client. And it just shows you so much of the bigger picture of exactly who you are and why people would choose you. So it can be such a great way to, boost your personal brand and showcase all that makes you you.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing about Instagram is, and I think Instagram is the only one that can really do it well and showcase it well, where you can really show your personality. And there's so many business coaches in that field, and really it's finding the one that you connect with And Instagram allows you to be able to figure out which ones you can connect with, that you know that you're not both, you're going to really mesh together and you're going to do really well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've seen that through, you know, not only personal brands, but businesses as well. Is with this global marketplace, people don't choose you because of your proximity anymore. They choose you because of how directly they resonate with you. And that's what we're finding Instagram is such a powerful tool to do, is showcase exactly those specific reasons as to what makes you unique and you special, so that you would connect with a very specific target audience. Because, you know, suddenly our competition is the whole world as opposed to just Harry and Sally down the street. So it is, you know, dialing in on what does make us special and who we will resonate with our target audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, and again, I loved how you brought up, it is an international forum now, where we used to always just think it was just our little world or our little community. Although I think depending on your hashtags and that, you can make it your own community if you want. So you actually have the choice of making it your community or making it an international reach as well.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, like we are from a small town, you know, in New Zealand, and we have seen really awesome examples of that. You know, a local restaurant, Rice Baby, have done an amazing job of, like you say, using those local hashtags, really bringing that community together and building hype. We've seen it with, you know, a local noodle cart, so they don't have any set premise. All they do is kind of pop up every now and again, and they've got about 1,500 followers, and they sell out every time because they just post, we're down here or we're going to be here, and yeah, they'll sell out. And delicious product, but also really leveraging social media, using it as their forefront of their marketing tool. And you know, even though it is a global marketplace, they are just really focused on delivering that product and that high quality product to the local area, and it works.
Yeah, it's what amazing a platform that we have, that we all love so much, that allows you to be able to reach people that you could never effectively reach in the past.
Oh, absolutely. I think I was listening to one of Gary Vee's pieces the other day, and he was sort of talking about, you know, never before in history have we been able to leverage platforms that are free. You know, had you started a business even, you know, 20, 30 years ago, before Facebook, before Instagram, you had to put money aside for advertising, and, you know, like you had to really test and trial and be willing to, you know, put a bit of backing and a bit of ad spend behind it. But now, you know, these people that are popping up, you know, doing pop-ups and selling out, it's all they're exchanging is their time, you know, and maybe they pay for some content, but at the end of the day, the platform's free. You know, you've got just as much of a chance on Instagram as popping up in front of someone as a business, you know, versus their friend, which is like a massive opportunity. And, you know, for those that aren't leveraging it as well as they could be at the moment, you're just crazy not to, in my opinion.
Oh, me too. And I look at some accounts and I'm thinking they're there, but they're not really doing much. I'm thinking the other day, well, here's something bizarre, but I actually said, I really would like to be a real estate agent because I would have so much fun on Instagram. Like there's just so much you could do if you were a real estate agent. Like I would be living on it. Like, I mean, it would be so much fun. And then, of course, I'm not going to do that. It was a moment of weakness, really, honestly.
Yeah, well, we're seeing people selling houses now via Instagram. I know, is it $1 Million Listing, Viv? Or there's a show in Australia where they
Gavin Rubinstein or something. An Aussie real estate agent.
Yeah, and they're utilizing Instagram so powerfully for real estate, and they're actively selling houses off it. So, you know, you can imagine that's pretty good return of posting of photos of houses and then talking about them and being really involved, and then you're selling a house and the return that you get for that. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Well, for real estate agents here, I don't know if it's common there, but, you know, they used to advertise so that they would be in flyers or community flyers, or you'd see their name or face on a bench or something, or where you would see a bus shelter. And it just is a flat image. And yet if they're, again, just like what we were talking about, getting to know them and getting to know what kind of person they are and that you can really mesh with them, it gives you such a better understanding of the people, who they are. And so you're more likely to approach them than if you saw them in that flat image, which you just don't know who they are, what kind of individual they are, right? It's a big difference. The next question I had was about our Instagram predictions for 2020, which we're well into, and we've just kind of talked about COVID-19. So give me your predictions of where you see this is going.
It's so funny, isn't it? Because I read an email the other day from another New Zealand creative agency, actually, and it made me laugh so much. It said, at the start of 2020, we all made these big marketing plans, but you may as well set it on fire and throw it out the window at the moment, because that is not going to go to plan. So I think what we talked about, we did these podcasts at the start of the year, and we talked about, this is what's going to happen, this is what you're going to look out for. There's I think if anything, things are going to be even more positive on social in terms of the engagement. I think it'll be interesting to see how people's buying behavior changes. That'll be the real telling thing. But in terms of the engagement, we're already seeing that skyrocketing. And on top of that, I'll let Tash talk a little bit about what we're sort of predicting in the shopping realms, but seeing the way that Instagram is really pushing users and encouraging them to shop with the tools that they're offering has been very interesting, and kind of makes us think that that's where we're going to see the platform go in the future.
Yeah. I think a way to predict the future is to look at the patterns of the past. And I think, 5 or 6 years ago, we look at Instagram and it was more of an entertainment platform. So people used it to follow their friends and family and maybe a few influencers. And gradually that shift has changed over time, so that people are using Instagram more as a tool to find products and services. And we're seeing that reflected in the statistics as well. And Instagram wants that to happen because then they can get more of a slice of the pie, really, when it comes to taking a cut of ad spend, and it's better for them if it's big for businesses than it is for just normal people. So we're seeing that shopping behavior is increasing. Instagram's becoming more and more sophisticated with their shopping tools, of the the variations that they're allowing us to try out and test about what will make a smooth shopping experience, and they're educating a lot on shopping. We watched a seminar a few weeks ago, maybe it's a few months ago now, of Instagram itself coming out and teaching people exactly how to best put their best foot forward when it comes to shopping online on Instagram. So we're seeing all these gradual changes, and we are also seeing that reflected in the user behavior of people are less likely to leave as much of a trace as they used to. So even though they're looking for brands and products more, they're not necessarily liking and following those brands like they used to. They're more using it to, am I going to buy this, or I'm checking this after I bought this to learn more about it, as opposed to I'm going to follow this brand for entertainment, or I'm going to follow this because that's my user behavior. So I think that's just I think businesses need to hear that quite frequently, because we can get quite caught up in these vanity metrics and having our success KPIs basically growing our followers and our likes, which don't actually necessarily tell us the big picture and aren't the statistics that we should necessarily be looking at. So I think it is really important to note of, the things that we can do to put our best foot forward are invest in quality content to showcase the things, the product or service in the best light possible, provide value to our audience. So whoever that target audience is, what do they actually want to get from us? What can we do for them so that they resonate with us? And then, using all those discoverability techniques to get out in front of them and to find them and connect with them.
Yeah, one of the other questions I'd be very curious to see what both of you think is that I would suggest too that we might see the demographics get older on Instagram. I'm not suggesting we're going to lose the ones that are the millennials and the 25 to 40 years old, but I think we're going to see a lot older ones. And the only reason I say that is because I think you mentioned it, I think, Tash, about looking back in history and how it has happened before. And with Facebook, it started out with a younger group of people, and then the parents got on, and then the grandparents got on. And I'm kind of thinking that Instagram, I've started seeing it with my friends when I've always loved Instagram, but my friends are older and they never really went on Instagram. And all of a sudden I'm hearing them go, oh yeah, we saw that on Instagram. I'm going, what? You're on Instagram?
Yeah, and I think that's normally the pattern that things go as well. Like, currently our grandparents are definitely not on TikTok, whereas that we've seen over COVID, especially with those numbers gone absolutely crazy on TikTok. It has suddenly, in the last month, got a much more broad audience and an older audience as opposed to more teenagers and high school students. And we normally see that with every social media platform, is the early adopters are young and then they gradually move out. And I think as well, it's where people are gravitating towards first. So a lot of our grandparents are going on because their grandchildren and their kids are saying, to Nana, to keep up with me and what I'm doing in my life, you have to follow me on Instagram, and then you'll know all of these things. And they're setting up these accounts for these people. So I think that's a natural shift, and it's really positive for brands, because in the past, brands who target millennials, Instagram's been a powerful platform, but now brands that don't necessarily only target young people, having a good Instagram presence can be such a powerful asset for your brand, because it's no longer just a certain target market that you'll be reaching.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I said, there is 1 billion people that are on Instagram. So even if you have 15% of your target group, 15% of 1 billion is still a lot of people. So not
absolutely.
to get caught up on the 15%, think of what 15% of is a billion, right?
I know. I used the exact example the other day when I said, obviously we know that 25 to 34-year-old age group is the biggest, but guess what? There's a billion monthly active users. Like, that is so many people, like exactly what you're saying. Even if your target market is only that 15%, you don't need much of that to make a really big difference to your business and your life.
No, you really don't, of any business, really. You just need a small smidgen of that to make a big difference. Which is about influencers as well, and using Instagram. That sort of runs right into the question I was going to ask later, is using Instagram for influencer marketing.
Yeah, I think, currently we've actually just done an episode that we released last week on influencer marketing during COVID, and it has changed a little bit in that just with messaging, it just has to be a lot more gentle, and we're seeing that, with cancel culture already a thing, brands that are using influencers in a bit of a tone deaf way is not resonating at the moment. So, influencer marketing, you do have to be quite sensitive at the moment and really know, how your message is hitting. But in saying that, influencer marketing is the oldest trick in the book. 50 years ago, we were using sports stars as effectively influencers to wear Nike and showcase our brands and our products, right? So it's just the latest innovation of that. And why it's so powerful is because now these people that smaller groups are resonating with in such a big way, because they're more specific, they have built this trust with their audience, and that if we work in a really, intentional way with that specific person who has this influence over our target audience, then that's obviously going to paint us in a really good light and showcase our product or our service in a really great way. I think what we've seen with influencer marketing is, because there's now so many influencers in such a range, it's more about the research step now and choosing, maybe smaller influencers with smaller dedicated followings, but a range of them who are actually going to be the right fit. So it's all about the fit now as to how successful a campaign will be.
Yeah, it will make a big difference, right, on how you have to be so sensitive, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, definitely. It's just even though we are going to see these big increases in the engagement, absolutely stay top of mind, but do keep in mind where we're at.
Yeah, and also we don't have to be using influencer marketing just to sell either. We're seeing some great ways people are using influencer marketing when it comes to, educational challenges, or, the World Health Organization doing the Safe Hands campaign on these different social platforms of, challenges around showcasing that. And we're seeing some really positive community incentives working with influencers at the moment. So I think brands, it's good to remember that you don't have to always just have your intention for your influencer marketing campaign to sell more product or service. Like, at the moment, it might be building that connection and resonating with your audience so that you're building rapport with them, so later down the line it's going to benefit you.
Yeah, and I just saw some data recently that proved that exactly, where they went and they asked people's response to how they were reacting to commercials and everything. And definitely, they said that if the companies that are going to go ahead and do very well in the future are ones that are showing empathy and understanding of what everyone is going through.
Yeah.
So that's, so really nothing much has changed for us, I guess, and I'm sure both of you used to preach this all the time, is you don't do a hard sell on Instagram because you'll just be flat. It won't
Yeah.
work. No, people
And
don't want that.
totally. And it is, sort of that Gary Vee philosophy of jab, 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 right hook, is you've got to provide value to convert your target audience ever. So, you can, talk about your product and service. Don't be afraid to, but you've got to be providing value first so that you've built that rapport instead of just selling. Yeah.
Yeah, so providing value for sure. Big one. So I would like to talk also about how to get leads for your business on Instagram. I'm sure this is one of the questions that you're asked on a continual basis. So am I, about why don't I have enough followers? Why am I not getting enough likes? And I know sometimes it's just because they're not following the basics. So let's discuss this.
Yeah, sure. I suppose, and you'll know as well, anything on Instagram, it always comes back to value, like, how can you be providing value? What do people actually want from me? At the end of the day, it's not about your product. It's about the emotion behind your product. How can we demonstrate that through visual content? That's where we're going to see, the intersection of all of those things, and with value top of mind in particular, that's when we see results on Instagram.
Do you want to add anything to that, Tash?
Yeah, I think it's all of those things, and it's the broader intention of figuring out why you're on Instagram, whether it's, to actively get more e-com sales through traffic to your website, or whether it's, you're an FMCG business and you want to give more of a backstory about your product so that when people are actually in the supermarkets looking at the shelves, they'll recognize your product and buy it as opposed to the thing next to it. So it's been quite clear about, what is that intention of why we're using Instagram, and then those little things that will help that. So whether it's, if it is driving traffic to your website, then you actually need to provide more of a juicier carrot for them to click that link in your bio to go to your website. So it might be that your call to action say, we've got a 10% discount for, and if you click the link in our bio, then you get 10% off your first purchase order, and then they can go through that route. So it's just, figuring out what the strategy is to go with that intention, and what those little things are that we can do to make that a more smooth experience so that our customers will actually do what we want them to do.
Well, it's so funny because normally I say, okay, what is your objective? And they'll say, well, it's to sell more product. And I'm going, no, it actually isn't.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so let's nail this down a little bit further on. Yeah, ultimately that's where you want to be, but you've got to get them there. So what is your objective? Is it getting to your website, or is it getting it to your store? So where do you want them to go?
And to answer that question, I think you have to start with, what does your entire customer kind of sales journey or your sales funnel look like, right? So for a lot of people, Instagram falls into that very top of funnel, into that awareness section. And like you say, Penny, it's actually about, how many people can I attract at the very top of my funnel so that I can pull more of them down and convert them to website clicks or over to my blog, or, maybe I just want them to, double tap 10 times and then they might click onto my blog, and so it's all about, the more people you can get up the top, the more people you'll have converting at the bottom. And for those conversions, you may need, yes, you'll get some, but to increase those conversions, you may need, some Facebook ads, some retargeting. Where does Instagram fit into that whole sales process for you? Because if you can look at it like that, more than just, well, I posted 5 photos, how come I didn't get X amount of sales? Or I've used an influencer, I've spent $100, why didn't I get $200 back immediately? If we can look at everything with a broader sense of, broader sense of view, then that's when we start to understand where it fits in as a whole. So I love what you're talking about in terms of, that action or that conversion that we want people to take being that click over to our website, because then also what, we talk about a lot as well, pardon me, is then it becomes your traffic. If you get people to click from Instagram to an email list, that allows you to then build up more touch points through another avenue. If you get them to click up to your website and you can retarget them with paid ad spend, then again, that's another touch point, and they're more likely to move down that funnel. So it's about figuring out where Instagram fits into that sales funnel for you.
Yeah, and I also think I love the idea when you're talking about the funnel and making sure that there isn't anything that's broken in the funnel. Because I know one of the clients, that I've seen clients where they're pushing them to the website, but their website doesn't have an opt-in or a favorable opt-in. So all of a sudden you've got them there, but your funnel, it's flat. And then they're not going down any further, you kind of lost them. So yeah. It's, unfortunately, Instagram is part of the funnel, part of your tactic, your marketing tactic, and part of your. It's a tactic, but part of your strategy. But you can miss out if you don't pay attention to the rest of the funnel.
Yeah, that's such an important point. We say that all the time. If if your website's super slow and you can drive all the traffic in the world, but if they have to wait 20 seconds for the page to load, they're leaving and it's not going to convert. And we always say that, Instagram is great because that's where a lot of your target audience is already hanging out. People will stumble across you on Instagram if you use these discoverability techniques, whereas they won't stumble across you by specifically Googling you and then finding your website, right? So it's just that initial way to capture that traffic, and then it's what we do with that traffic later, which is the other step. But it's, if we know that it's capturing traffic, which is our main intention for our Instagram strategy, it's how can we do that in the best way? What value can we provide that's the most attractive to our target audience? And, what juicy carrot can we give them to entice them to click that link and make it a better experience for them? Yeah, so that's such a good point that you made.
Yeah, great to have that carrot is so important. One of the other things about Instagram, and it's not even on here, but we touched on it, is that the platform is probably in your funnel. It's the platform that is the most likely where you could have engagement. There isn't another platform or another part of your funnel. Maybe the emails because you're connected to it. But prior to that, it is the place where people really connect with you and are going to have a conversation with you. It doesn't really happen in Facebook anymore. It just isn't there. People are very reluctant to have those kind of conversations on LinkedIn, even though they're trying. But really, Instagram is where you can really have a one-on-one connection with someone that is interested in whatever your service or product is.
Yeah, and I think we're really seeing that in stories and the growth of Instagram stories, because it does show that more, behind the scenes of your business or more in depth into your business or your service. So I think with that, we look at that opportunity of those inquiries and how we can showcase that. And then if we're showing, maybe a factory tour of our business on our story, and then we get this reply and it's a reply to your story and it's saying, oh, like why do you use this type of leather? Have you looked into this type of leather? And you can reply with this, really, it's just this immediate conversation. There's so little space now between a business and a customer, which we've never really seen in the past because it's been such, we're on different playing fields and there's not that interface where people can easily connect in a really time sensitive and relevant way. And Instagram stories have definitely been a game changer for that connection experience. And I think that would be a really key thing for people if they take anything out of today's episode is Instagram stories are the way that people are connecting with brands. So, your finished feed is still so powerful. It's that front of house, it's that polished, it's that curated, it's that beautiful holistic picture of who your business is and how great it is, whereas your stories are that connection tool. So that's how we can show the behind the scenes, what makes us different, the person behind the business, all those things as to why people resonate with you.
And I love it when in the messages and stories go right to you, so you are directly connected to them immediately.
Yeah, so powerful.
Yeah, it's totally amazing. And I think even like probably a year ago, we had like about 300,000 people were going on stories. And now they say there's over 500 million people going on stories. And actually, Tash, you sort of touched on this, is that people that are doing Instagram don't care if you're a business or if it's personal. All they want to know is they're connecting with you and that they're engaging because they believe in whatever you're doing.
Yeah. We look at, examples like Showpo, for example. It's a big online clothing store, and its director and founder is Jane Liu, and she on her finished stories, it's basically shoppable. So people can shop the latest looks, look at all the dresses. Basically, they would use a bit of influence marketing, they can buy. Whereas on the stories, it's more, people unboxing their products, trying it on, it being shown on real people. It's inside the offices. So a lot of it is that insight into the staff, and they'll be doing pranks on each other, and they'll be showcasing some of the latest features that they've done, and it feels like you're in the room with the staff members, and it creates this connection with this brand, and you feel like you know the people that have dispatched to you when you get this product or this service, and it creates such a different type of connection that I don't really think any other platform has that opportunity to showcase in that way at the moment. So it's very cool.
Oh, actually, that's brilliant. Like, I have not seen that yet. And I think it's brilliant because really you could do it if you were a restaurant. You could do it anywhere behind the scenes would be just wonderful. Like, I'd like to know how they make my hamburger.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
And that's what we often tell businesses. We're like, the most boring part of your business, that is the inner workings, is the most interesting thing to other people. Time lapses of you in a factory, or putting together the hamburgers, or the different sauces that you're using, mixing things up. Like, that is so fascinating for people. So that's such an important aspect of what we can be showcasing in our Instagram stories.
Well, you just think, I'm thinking of today, I was buying paint, and the person on the phone, and I'm talking to them, and she said, oh, well, everybody would know that. I'm going, actually, no one does. And that would be really good on Instagram if they actually showed what they were talking about. Like, because it's a big mystery. This paint is a big mystery to me on how they make it whiter, lighter, darker, deeper, or whatever. I'd love to have an Instagram or see someone on Instagram that talks about that. It would be very clever. But anyway, so we're running out of time. But one of the things I wanted to bring to the attention, and I'm going to want you to tell us more information too, but I wanted to bring to everyone's attention about your podcast, because I really think people should go in and listen to Ace the Gram. So just go Ace the Gram, and it's right on your website. And you covered off some great things. I know I was listening before I got on, as I mentioned. And some of the topics you were talking about was, what should we be doing now on social media because of COVID? What to post on Instagram if you're currently shut down? An example of great posting practices. So guys, if you're listening to this podcast, I really tell you, you should be going and listening to your podcast, Instagram as well, because honestly, this is great stuff for people to know, and it's rather timely right now, and everybody can use some help on what to do with your Instagram account at this time.
Thanks so much, Penny.
Oh no, my pleasure. Really, I say it very sincerely. So maybe both of you can tell me a little bit about what you're offering, what's going on right now because of this COVID-19, what's going on in your business that you can let the viewers know about.
Yeah, sure. I think you've sort of covered it off in terms of the podcast. Tash and I really put a lot of effort into making sure that, the people that do listen to the podcast can walk away with really actionable tips. We get comments all the time of, oh my gosh, I just reached, my first 1,000 followers from listening to your podcast and so on, which has been really, really awesome. And for those that did want a little bit of, some free extra resources, head along to acethegram.com/resources. I've just updated those the other day. So we've got guides on giveaways, influencer marketing, and also some free apps and tools that you can use. So that should be a really good place to start.
Yeah, I think it's been really cool putting out this content and then getting a response from it. I know one of our COVID podcasts 2 weeks ago was about what businesses can be doing right now if they're shut down. And one of our podcast listeners has a business that is in the food industry that she can't be working at the moment, but they do this amazing specialty food and food trucks and things like that, and they have taken to online sort of cooking classes and tutorials and sharing a lot of their big cooking and baking secrets. And they said after they heard that podcast and they did that, their engagement has skyrocketed, and they're getting all this crazy interaction happening, which is so cool to hear. So I think it can be just good if you're feeling a bit low in inspiration and what you should be doing right now. It can be, and we try and keep it super lighthearted as well. So, no one wants to be preached to for an hour. So definitely recommend checking it out.
And the other thing too, you may just want to mention about your e-course that you both have.
Oh yes. Yeah, we forget to sell things.
Yes.
You still
So
we all still have to make money somehow.
yeah, very true, very true. We have videoed our in-depth courses which take either beginners, so if you haven't even got started on Instagram, if you want to learn how to actually function the platform and you learn from scratch, we've got a course for those people, and then we have a course for people who are using Instagram and it's all flowing for them, but they really want to optimize and learn all the specific techniques and inside the algorithm and all the ways that will take them to the next level, and all those growth strategies that are thrown around on the internet. We sort of like give you the know-how and everything about them. So those are also available from our website, and they're probably, if you're sitting at home right now and you're wanting to upskill and you're wanting to push your business forward, then they can probably, be a great tool to do that for you right now.
So it is Instagram.com. So anyone that's interested, that's easy to find. So I have to thank both of you, Viv and Tash, for coming on and being, I know we're both on different time zones, different days actually, which is even more odd. But I am so grateful for you both coming on. I was looking so forward to our conversations about Instagram, and I wish you the most success, and as well as stay safe and healthy and away from anyone that's got that virus.
Thank you so much, Penny. It's been a pleasure, and you're really awesome. Thanks for having us on.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Penny.
Thanks for listening to the Ladies in Biz. Send us your comments on ladiesandbiz.com. We would like to hear from you.